Welcome to Better Daily Life, where we are moving forward 1% better every single day. Download the app and supercharge your journey at betterdaily.life. Now it's time to ditch facts and get facts with your host and my dad, Alex Van Houten.
What is up, Betterment family? This is Alex Van Houten in Better Daily Live. Happy Thursday. It is Word Thursday, and on Word Thursday, I share with you a meditation on a word, and today's word is friend. And meditations on words are both fun for me, and most of our community has said it's been meaningful to them. Sometimes people submit words to me that they'd like to hear my thoughts on, and the etymology of the word, and some different ways to think about it with regard to your betterment. And so I really enjoy doing this. So if you have a word that you would like me to cover for you, let me know. Bring it up. I would love to deal with your word. We've done words like grit and courage and resilience and faith and prayer. And we've also done some goofy words like chickens. So nothing's off the table. So bring your word. Good morning, Robin. Good to see you this morning, brother. So today's word is the word friend. And friend is a really interesting word. The definition that we use today is something like an acquaintance whom we like, maybe even love, and trust. That's an interesting thought. And then also an individual we prefer to be around. And the etymology of the word, at least in English, goes back to the Celtic, which means a non-slave member of our clan. One of our clan who is not in bondage. And that's a really weird way to say it, huh? And, well, I'll talk about that in a second, because the word friend has quite a few deep meanings. And I think that it's worthwhile to think through them, and to also to think about some friends in your life. So before we get to the actual word meditations, I just want you to take a moment and think about the people in your life that you interact with, as if you have you in the center, and then imagine that you have kind of an inner circle, a circle around you, maybe the 3 to 5 people who you do life with, who you can say whatever you need to say to, and vice versa. That's a two-way street. Think about the inner circle, the people in your life when these are the people who, when something really good happens to you, they're the first people you want to tell about it. And if something really bad happens to you, it's also, these are the first people that you feel both obligated and necessary to tell, right? Those are your inner circle. And then you have another circle kind of around that inner circle. Sorry, just a second. Those 3 to 5 people, by the way, it's worth writing their names down. And it's also worth making sure that you interact with them regularly. I'll talk about that in a second. So inner circle. Then you have your next concentric circle. These are the people in your life. For most of us, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 15 people. And there's a reason for these numbers too. I'll tell you in a second. But that next concentric circle, this is these are friends, but they're not our inner circle friends, right? These are the individuals whom we do life with. I joke that these are the people who would show up to help me move. If I needed to take all of our stuff in our house and pack it up and move from one house to another, or where, these are the people who would come help me carry a couch, right? And I used to joke in college and beyond that this is how you find out who your real friends are, because I grew up in the generation just before social media. So social media came around and people had Facebook friends. And I was like, that's weird. I have 2,000 friends, but when it comes time to move, I have 2,000 friends, quote unquote. But when it comes time to move, my lease is up here in Dallas. Who shows up with a truck to help me get from point A to point B, and for whom would I also do that? And that's that second circle of friends. And these individuals, maybe you do life with, maybe they've broken bread in your home with you, and vice versa. And this is an important group of people, especially if you have some moving to do or a terrible workout to get through. That might be another thing. And so that's another group of friends. And then there's another concentric circle, and this is like acquaintances. These are people that you've shaken hands with. If you saw them in the grocery store, perhaps you might stop and have a brief conversation. It's not like they show up to help you move, and it's not like they're in your inner circle, but you appreciate them and generally want to smile around them and wouldn't mind bumping into them now and then. And that's your circle of acquaintances. And for most human beings, we have room for about 200 of those. We have room in our mind for about 200 of those. When you start getting beyond 200, things get cloudy. And again, there's a reason for that. And then outside of that, there's a bunch of different words you can use to describe the group of people outside of that. Those are the people whom you still interact with, you're still connected to, but they're not part of your concentric circles of acquaintances, friends, or inner circle. I'll often say that there are people that I know their name, I know their face, I would high five them and it wouldn't be too weird, but they've never been to my house. They've never played with my kids. If I saw them in the grocery store, I'd probably just either wave or just notice. But that's, the amorphous group of people. And very little interaction. And then outside of that then you have the unknown. And what's strange is in the social media space, a lot of the people who we are connected to virtually or connected to electronically speaking are in that unknown space. Like, we hope that when we interact with them, we're operating on a very similar set of presuppositions. When we walk by each other on the street, I hope that you're also, bound by nonviolence and you'll respect my property. And if I say good morning, you'll say good morning back. You won't trip me in the parking lot or whatever. I hope that you're operating on a similar set of principles that I'm used to operating from, but I don't know your name. I don't interact with you, right? So there's that group of people. Now, why am I going through the trouble of describing this? The reason is because our brains have the capacity to recognize a very large number of faces. Our brains are good at that. We can actually see somebody for less than 5 seconds. We can see somebody, and the next day we could see them. We could never talk to them. It could be all the way across the room, but the next day we could be walking through a public area and see them again and recognize them. Not like, I know that guy, his name's Dan or whatever. We don't do that, but what we can do is we can say, that face looks familiar. You ever had that before? Like, you look familiar. Where do I know you from? And it's like somebody from your high school years ago, right? And that kind of messes with our head too sometimes if we have like a celebrity that looks kind of like some dude walking around in our town. We're like, is that Justin Timberlake? No. Did anybody ever tell you look like Justin Timberlake? All the time. Happens all the time. Because I'm just kidding. My aunt says I look like Justin Timberlake. I've got a good beard going on though, so maybe I've destroyed the resemblance. Now, in our world today, oftentimes familiarity, that is, you look familiar, I've seen your face before, I see you often, blah, blah, blah. Familiarity, you follow me on Facebook, is oftentimes mistaken as friendship. Familiarity is mistaken as friendship. They're not the same thing. If you're familiar with somebody, that does not make them your friend. This is something I'm teaching my 7-year-old. It's like, they're my friend. Bennett would say, they're my friend. And what he means by that is, I saw them once. That's my friend. And that's sweet. In fact, I teach my children, treat a man like a friend so that in the end, he might become one. I think that's a good operating principle when dealing with strangers. Now, when you're a kid, watch out. Don't follow them into dark alleys with candy. I teach my children that they put their best foot forward when they meet a stranger. They speak kindly and respectfully. They make eye contact. They talk. And the goal is, I hope, that if the world was made up of people who started the relationship of whatever relationship they're going to have with friendship, that perhaps we'd all get along a little bit better. Now, that's not to say that, well, you continue doing that when people aren't a friend back, but we can talk about that too. Anyway, my point is, familiarity and friendship are not the same thing. And in our social media space, there's a strange strange thing where we say we have friends, or our social media accounts tell us we have friends. And so people who are growing up in this world today think that friendship is, likes and comments and stuff. That's unfortunate, because the word friend is actually a very, very, very deep word. It's a very deep word. Friendship is probably one of the most intimate connections that human beings can have. And it's a gift. It's a wonderful thing. That inner circle I was talking about, those 3 to 5 people who know you. They know you. You want to tell them things that other people don't know. You want to celebrate with them. You want to cry with them. Like that, your inner circle of people, they know you. But that gift comes at a cost, because friendship is not something you can just click a button and have. Friendship is something that you have to invest in. Friendship is something that if you're going to grow a relationship with somebody, if you're going to know somebody and be known, that takes time. There's no other substitute for it. That takes time. It takes regular and consistent time. For many people, this is why many of their closest friends come from like high school or something. And the reason is because there's no other time in your life where you're forced to be stuck with people kind of arbitrarily. There's no other time in your life where you're forced to be stuck with people for like 40 hours a week, right? Maybe your best friend comes from work. Same idea. Your best friend comes from school. Same idea. But now we're in a space, adults specifically, now we're in a space where it's very possible to go through your life. You can go to church. You can go to the grocery store. You can go to work. Maybe you can work from home. You can go through your life and not interact with people on a regular basis consistently. And so friendships are actually on the decline. If you ask the average person 20 years ago, how many really close friends do you have? Like people who would be extremely upset if you weren't here anymore. The number was 9 on average. In the average population among 2,000 people polled, the average was 9. Today, if you ask somebody, how many very, very close friends do you have? It varies by demographic. The older generation, if you're over 50, that number's still 9 on average. The younger generation, that average is 2. That's crazy. And that's not good. That's not good, because friendship is a powerful force. Friendship is an amazingly powerful force that we have to make time for. If you don't take anything else away from me today on the meditation of the word friend, I want you to write down those people, those inner circle people, and I want you to check yourself and ask, how often am I making time for those people? How often am I initiating time spent with the people that I would like to have close relationships with in my life? Be careful with those people, those close people, that inner circle. You're going to become a lot like them. So make sure you're spending time with people you want to be more like. Or another way to think about it is, who do you admire and how can you spend more time with them? Close friendships, in my experience, require time every week. They require time spent every week. It might not be like, coffee every single weekday or something, but time spent every week connecting, refilling each other on where the story's at and how things are going, celebrating the wins, sharing some of the losses, and there's no substitute for time spent. There's this series called The Chosen. I really enjoy it. They're coming out with the third season soon. The producer has made a attempt and effort to crowdfund a story of Jesus from the perspective of his disciples. And I think it's just masterfully done. But anyway, and with the consultation of many different religious leaders from different places, Catholicism and Judaism and Protestantism. And so it's a great group effort. Anyway, there's an episode where they're passing through a city and one of the disciples asks Jesus, "Hey, there's a friend of mine in the city. Do you mind if I break away from the group and go spend some time with them?" And Jesus says to him, and I think it's such a cool line because this isn't biblical, okay, but it's actually a very good line that I could see coming from the biblical corpus. And that is, yes, if we don't make time for friends, we won't have any. And that's spoken by the guy who had 12 disciples whom he would call friends. They followed him, but he would call them friends. the group of people who would show up to help Jesus move if he had a house. There was 12 of them. And there was a small inner circle, Peter, James, and John. There's a small group in his inner circle that showed up everywhere with him. They were on the mountain for his transfiguration. They got to see the young woman raised from the dead. Peter even walked on water toward Jesus. He had a tight inner circle, and he had time that he made sure to spend with each one of those people. There's a verse in Ecclesiastes that says, "Pity the man who falls down and has no one to pick him up." It's a powerful image, but you would think, so you pity the guy who's laying on the ground and has nobody to help him up. I don't think that's what it's saying. I think, because, Bible's pretty clear. Sometimes gravity's working, and there's not a lot of pity to be had when, the forces of gravity take you down. That happens. It's pity the man who has not made time to invest in relationships, who would be there in his darkest moments. That's the pity. That's the pity. If you're not in your darkest moments right now, now's a great time to be investing in good relationships. To be there for people. Ask questions and listen closely. Tell them things. Step out in faith and play. That word, that Celtic word that the word friendship comes from, is like to be a non-slave. That's actually the spirit of friendship, because if you and I are connected, but we have to be, like when you were in school and they gave you a group project and you're like, you two are on a team, and you're like, oh God, that guy, because I'm going to end up doing all the work. Awesome. Fantastic. That's like slavery, right? But friendship is not like that. Friendship is a conscious, desired decision to spend time in the presence of another individual who makes you better than you otherwise could be. And that's cool, because that's not slavery. That's the spirit of play. That's a voluntary play. So, all that to say, I hope that when you sit down to write down your 5 people, or maybe even your 10 people if you're really blessed, whom you have friendships with, I hope that you'll take some opportunities to grow the amount of time that you spend with them. It's hard work. I didn't say it was easy. Well, put it on the calendar. Make it happen. Reach out to them and ask when they can have lunch. Set up a call. Set up a time. In this day and age of technology, I understand face-to-face communication is wonderful, but if you are willing, there's a number of ways that you guys can stay connected. And I would hate to pity you in the time when you fall down and had nobody to pick you up. Guys, this has been Alex Van Houten in Better Daily Live. We all have a cross to carry. Do not do it alone. Spend some time investing in good friendships. Until next time, guys, it's just 1%. You got this.
Thank you for joining us for your 1% better. Be you, just better, in mind, body, and spirit. Go to betterdaily.life, download our app, and check out our 5-star coaching resources. We all have a cross to carry. It's lighter when we do it together. Go to betterdaily.life today.